Good evening to you, Scratchy. How are you?
Night, neighbor, night, Caroline, night, viewers and everyone. Blessed night.
Hey, Scratchy, welcome.
I'm here.
Doing all right, sir?
Yes, neighbor, man. Definitely, I'm great.
Yeah. Scratchy, I chose tonight to not focus directly on the PNP's press conference by playing clips of what was said and all of that, but to shape it in a way that shows my listeners that what the PNP was actually doing, Scratchy, was blaming the government for the government to do more without accepting, firstly, that they themselves are responsible for where these people are, and secondly, that the people must act in way that demonstrate their own agency. In other words, the opportunities that are being created in the society are not being taken up by the people simply because the politics of the PNP keeps telling them that not nangwan, something agwan, Scratchy. And it is time for the people to realize that they are actors in their own development. How you comment?
Neighbor, say good night again to everyone in the chat. Enough love and respect, yeah. I'm here, you know. Neighbor, let's put everything in context, neighbor. First thing I was start to the neighbor was a stress conference, neighbor. This wasn't a press conference in no terms, neighbor. And when you look at even the coordination, the presentation, neighbor, if you want to be taken serious, neighbor, when you're coming, if you came clean that you're coming with important message and you want to be taken serious, neighbor, your appearance, neighbor, and how you present yourself and how you carry yourself and how you come bring it across the nation have a lot to do with how serious you are taken. So when you see the opposition to the neighbor, 5 or 6 different members of parliament, all bungle up, neighbor, very difficult to get a good camera shot or anything like that for media houses and stuff like that, neighbor. A press conference like that, neighbor, if you put a press conference, it should be done in a more formal setting, neighbor, a more decorated setting. You not kind of set the tone to set so that you're sending a serious message. But with the format that they come with, neighbor, today, to me, they look like a bunch of riffraffs. It didn't look organized no time at all, neighbor. And the messaging again that was coming from it, neighbor, basic, mediocre level information, neighbor. Persons talking about persons doing a phone that they were expecting the government to replace these phones, talking about the distance or people have to travel to get the grants. Okay, so it's very, 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 very distasteful presentation to the neighbor. And when you look at what is caused or what the PNP is complaining about, neighbor, yes, neighbor, majority of what is going on or what happening, it is definitely caused by the People's National Party. The government is not to be blamed, neighbor, in how slow the process is being going on for persons who to get these grants. I don't think the government should be blamed. I don't think the organization or the companies, neighbor, that are being used where the persons go and collect this money should be being blamed either. The problem is the process, neighbor. We are using an old, antiquated and outdated process, which is joining of lines. Joining of lines, neighbor, is becoming something of the past. And the reason why 2026, we are still joining line in Jamaica, neighbor, and PNP is come and talking about it as a result of the People's National Party, neighbor. If we had a national identification system in place, you wouldn't need to have 300 persons turn up in one line waiting to collect any form of grant, because that would have, with a national identification system, it is much more easier now for you to enter through the technological advanced ways of first world nations or other basic nations, neighbor, disperse cash of this large amount, neighbor, to its citizens. You know, I live in a country where whenever government is dispersing money, I don't see nobody joining any line or anything like that. But that is a result of the national education system that we have. And it's the People's National Party who brought the government to court, neighbor, and sabotage needs. And let needs have to go on the backbench and have to try to come back and cannot come back and now. The PNP did that. So when they want to come and talk about persons turning up in line for hours, or persons, the reason for these lines is a result of the People's National Party. And yes, neighbor, any one of them, everything that you hear at the press conference to the neighbor, it was manifested by the PNP. It was given vitamins by the PNP. And it's the PNP who caused it, neighbor. We are still, you know. As long as Jamaica continue to advance, the PNP will continue to decline. PNP benefit when people live in swallow. PNP benefit when people live in slum. PNP benefit from trying to meet persons' basic needs, like giving people money if you go take bus or go take taxi if you go collect them grant. Those are the things that PNP strive on. People's National Party is an organization that uplifts Jamaicans, and let Jamaicans understand what they want and where they should go. So we have to understand, neighbor, that this is what we are seeing from the opposition. They don't surprise me. Looking at them to that stress conference, I can say it again, neighbor, I saw a bunch of riffraffs. I didn't see an alternative government. I didn't see a leader of an opposition party. And I didn't see any member of parliament, neighbor, who understand that this is 2026 and sees and buy into the vision of the government, regardless of them being the opposition, but understand where this country should go and where we want this country to go. The rhetoric coming from them to the neighbor, baseless, empty, prerogative, and misleading. You know, and not being truthful, not telling Jamaican, praying on Jamaican neighbor and persons who are in distress who really need these grants, talking about this grant is not enough to fix back this grant is not enough to fix back that. One of the biggest issues, neighbor, that we have right now, that the government have right now, I'm not in Jamaica, and I can tell you that this is the problem that is going on with the grant. You have household, neighbor, where husband live, wife live, 2 adult kids might even live with them at the same time, neighbor. And because houses like those, neighbor, were given 1 grant, it is causing problem. The PNP is going around and telling people that it's not 1 grant the house should get. It's like every adult in the house should get 500,000. That is madness. That is crazy. So when they talk about that a person don't get assessment, that is why a person don't get assessed, because they're trying to trick the government. They're trying to play on the government, and this is as a result why the PNP downplayed and push back against needs. Because if we have needs in place in the national identification system, how would I need this person just come with their identification system? Money could be lodged in your bank account, or if you have a fixed address, checks will be mailed to you and reach you much more easier, more convenient. But PNP strive, neighbor, on chaos. They strive on mischief, they strive on disinformation, and they strive on misinformation. As long as we have the PNP in Jamaica, they would fight against anything that have to do with the well-being and the advancement of this of Jamaica. I can tell you that, neighbor.
Okay. Secondly, Scratchy, and this may be a discussion that is only aired on the Hello Neighbor show. But government does have a role, and I call them the macro. But between the government and the citizens, Scratchy, are the members of parliament. I get the feeling, Scratchy, that our members of parliament are poor leaders, poor managers, and that some of them should not be elected as members of parliament. I think there is a missing link, Scratchy, because you are the man on the ground. You are manager of a constituency. Isn't there something to be said about these members of parliament who continue to complain about the problems and are offering no tangible solution as how they are going to solve the people's problem? Why the hell were they elected, Scratchy, but to solve people's problem?
Neighbor, on the opposition benches, we have a whole lot of new member of parliaments, first-term member of parliaments. A lot of these member of parliaments, neighbor, they don't even understand the basic rules that govern the parliament, neighbor. They don't understand the standing orders. They don't understand how to ask questions instead of making statements, neighbor. They are very young. They are very immature. And nothing is wrong with being young. Nothing is wrong with being immature, neighbor. But the problem that I have with them, neighbor, is that they are not willing to learn. And that is where the problem is. They are not willing to learn. Now, a lot of these guys enter politics, neighbor. I don't know what type of conspiracy, what was said to them, what was said to them, neighbor, to entice them, neighbor, to come into this ring. What the current leader, what the leadership of their party told them that they would have gotten if they have won the election, neighbor. But I get the sense, neighbor, that these member of parliament, neighbor, they, from the opposition side, they came into the parliament, neighbor, they came for as candidate, they won. I believe some of them, neighbor, are even surprised that they actually won it. They are still, neighbor, trying to reel from the reality of becoming a member of parliament, because they themselves, neighbor, might be self-shocked to some level. So they can't come to the reality and know, neighbor. But despite that, they won the election, neighbor. And when they won the election, the belief that they had, neighbor, are what they were looking outside and looking in as a whole member of parliament should be, a who's and a member of parliament, neighbor. I think that, neighbor, when they come now, they see that it is far from what they were thinking, neighbor. They were expecting that being member of parliament, they're going to get this whack of cash, where you can just take this whack of cash and you can just go into your constituency and fling it on the people in the constituency, despite whatever the situation may be. And every time you want more cash, the government can just call upon the government, and the government just give you more cash. They don't realize, neighbor, that Jamaica, neighbor, that is run by the Jamaica Labour Party led by Jamaica Lones, neighbor. deals with governance, neighbor, different among the People's National Party deal with governance. And that is what is happening now with these young members of parliament, neighbor. They are not leaders, neighbor. They lack leadership qualities, they lack leadership skills, and most importantly, they are not creative. They lack creativity. They cannot come up with ideas as member of parliament, neighbor. They don't have any form of managerial or management skills. They cannot come up with any type of idea. They cannot brainstorm anything, neighbor. They cannot use their inner resources that is in. A lot of these members, a lot of these constituencies, neighbor, are very wealthy. And I'm not talking in terms of financial wealth, but they are wealthy in other areas, neighbor, where member of parliaments can expound on these wealth, neighbor, and bring a lot of these wealth to realization. There are a lot of these constituencies, neighbor, they even bother some of our most impactful and most profitable companies and organizations, neighbor. You, as a member of parliament, must be skilled, must be equipped enough where you can go to these organizations that surround your constituencies, have negotiation with them, bring proposal to them, and see how best you can have these organizations help your constituency in whatever development that you have planned for these constituencies. But a lot of these member of parliaments nearby can tell you the only thing them can plan is corner league, the only thing them can plan is netball competition, and the only thing them can do is keep treat. They cannot do nothing else nearby. Them don't have no skill and them don't have the will neither to do anything. A treat MP them nearby and corner league MP them.
Yeah, before I go to the others, Scratchy, I'd love you to double down a little bit on it, because I find it to be a problem that if we are really going to solve the problems that we have, we're gonna have to look at some of these MPs, how they are chosen, Scratchy. You don't think that MP should come to the job with some managerial skills, some because you're a lawyer or you're a doctor means that you're a good manager, Scratchy. This is a weakness that I see in the system, Scratchy, that all these MPs are doing is looking to the government. The government must do it. What is the role of the MPs in helping the people on the ground? You are elected to serve. How are you serving the people? How are you mobilizing resources? Right? How are you coordinating with local NGOs and the business community and the church in your local area to help the people? I think it's a fundamental weakness, Scratchy. That's something that needs to be looked at.
Neighbor, as a member of parliament, you're supposed to be that bridge, neighbor, between members of your constituency, neighbor, and the government. You are that bridge.
How a cricketer become a member of parliament, sir?
Exactly. You are that bridge. You're supposed to be that bridge, neighbor, where as a member of parliament, you're that bridge between your constituency members and the government and government resources and government agency. You lobby on behalf of your constituency. You make referrals on behalf of your constituency based on government resources and government proposals or whatever is out there that government is giving or government grants or anything. That is what you do as a member of parliament. Try to use whatever resources or programs government have out there, neighbor, to let your constituency benefit to the utmost best of your ability and benefit from these things like hard programs, stuff like that. Business grants, stuff like that. They find ways and unique ways. The Ministry of Labour have so many business grant programs. When I come like that, a lot of these members of parliament themselves don't even know that the Ministry of Labour is offering these programs where they can go and do things like that, neighbor. So the problem, neighbor, in Jamaica is, neighbor, member of parliament is a popularity contest that has turned into the last couple of elections, neighbor. It's about who's more popular and it's about who can dash the most cash on the day, neighbor. So that is why we are seeing this level of mediocrity, neighbor, and poor leadership from member of parliament, especially from the opposition side, neighbor. Because when you look at even all these candidates were chosen from the opposition side, neighbor, these candidates were basically chosen, neighbor, based on their loyalty to the leadership of the People's National Party, neighbor. Not on a level of what they can do to uplift their constituency member, not from a level of what they can do to uplift the People's National Party, and not from a level, neighbor, if they to become the government of the day, neighbor, they could be called they could be ministers, as certain important ministers and stuff like that. I am telling you, neighbor, that with that job bullet come past September 3rd, neighbor, when we elected the Jamaica Labour Party for one president in third term, because I can tell you, neighbor, that if it was Angela Brown-Burke as our foreign affairs minister, we'd be in big troubles right now. And if it was any one of them, if you think about Date Campbell as our Minister of Agriculture, if you ever think about Peter Bunting going back to the crime portfolio, if you ever think about Julian Robbins as the Minister of Finance, neighbor, that good I eat with supper, neighbor. We see the type of organization this PNP's, neighbor. They are hemmed to barrels, neighbor, and they always make the most nice. And I'm going to say it again, for Jamaica to grow, neighbor, the PNP must go.